All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Team Talk Live. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. I thought for a moment that we wouldn't get on. I Team Talk. All right, good thought for a moment that I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. Thought for a moment. Hey, I'm so okay. Sorry about that. Again, I'm excited to be here. My name is Dillard, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and the host of Team Talk Live, where we transform the minds and lives of teens and those who love them. So I'm glad you're here with us. And I have a special guest with us tonight, my friend, Miss Gena Golden. Welcome, Gena. I'm so glad you're here with me tonight.
Thank you for having me, Anne. It's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. Gena is a licensed clinical social worker here in Atlanta. And we've become friends over the last few months and just spent the weekend together as Spark and Hustle. And I'm still feeling beautiful being amongst people with so much energy.
Yes, that was amazing, wasn't it?
It was. Well, Gena, I want you to tell our audience, how do you serve in the world? What do you do?
Okay, so like you said, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have a private practice where I provide psychotherapy services to mostly adults. I do I used to do a lot more teens than I am recently, but most of my focus is on young adults and older adults. And I'm also a certified hypnotherapist as well, and I do a lot of mindfulness work and solution focused work. And my practice is very holistic and it is in its approach. So a lot of mind, body, spiritual type, spirit slash soulful connections with people and getting them to kind of tap into that aspect of who they are. People come to me for a wide variety of reasons, but mostly they come to me because they're in search of kind of an inner knowingness. They want to tap into their inner strength, their inner power. They want to feel comfortable in their own skin. They want to they want to create a congruence between how they feel inside and how the world sees them. So many of my clients are young career women, entrepreneurs, mothers, single women, mostly women. I do have some men. And they're just really striving to get a better understanding of themselves so they can feel full and just feel confident in who they are. And I kind of help them with that. I help them make that connection between what is intuitively and divinely theirs and to step into that and feel good about it and walk in that strength and in that power. I do coaching for people with test anxiety, and I work with college students. I work with pre-licensed professionals, and I do work with some teens, not as much, but all the skills are transferable to teens. And so most of what I do is to help people to eliminate and slay their test anxiety so they can be licensed, so they can get their certification, so that they can elevate their career or something that's blocking them. We work to unblock and unstick them so that they can earn more money, get promotions, establish their own business, whatever their goal is. I help them to kind of work that out because I believe it's a mental game as well as emotional and spiritual. So decided to use a holistic approach to help people slay their inner critic and embrace an internal coach, an inner coach, so that they can find success in whatever that looks like in life for them. So that's essentially what I do.
That is so exciting to me. And I it made me think about this weekend. We had a speaker. I'm trying to think of who it was. He was talking about the inner game, the outer game, and the things that stopping us from accomplishing our goals. And that leads us right into our topic, because we are talking about, you know, specifically teenagers, because that's the population that I serve. And, I think about teenagers who have studied, they're smart, they know the material. But when it comes to testing, they have a very difficult time doing that and performing. And I'm one of those people who have a very difficult time with testing. And so what would you say are some of the causes of things like that? I'm not talking about the teenager who didn't study area. I'm talking about the ones who, stayed up, made note cards, highlighted, did everything that they needed to do, but still have difficulties.
Gotcha. Some people, whether you're a teenager, a young adult, or an older adult, oftentimes there's a fear of failure. So just being caught up in I don't want to fail, or feeling that you may fail, or some people have perfectionism that they're always striving toward. Some children have pressure of the parents, of the teachers to be great. And so especially, some people think that children or students or teens or whoever who have had a successful record, they don't realize that they also feel a sense of pressure as well. It's pressure to stay successful. It's pressure to stay on the winning team all of the time and academically do well all of the time. So there's a lot of pressure even for the super smart child. There's a lot of pressure for the child who hasn't been very successful, right? So they have memories of past failures. And so those past failures are kind of programmed in their subconscious mind and kind of well up and remind them over and over again, remember you failed that test last week, or remember you failed 2 months ago. And so those repetitious thoughts keep welling up in them and reminds them of what, of a past experience. And then somehow they relate it to a present day experience and say, okay, if I failed 5 times before, I'll probably fail again. And so it's just that fear of failure is one thing that oftentimes people have a difficult time with. Another thing is, you said a lack of preparation, right? So we know that that is a sure way of kind of getting yourself all worked up, because if you haven't prepared, then when you go to sit for your test, of course, you're going to be more worried and more stressed and more anxious because you haven't put in the work. So obviously the antidote for that is to prepare more, right? Another thing, again, I mentioned poor test history. So if you have failed often, you tend to think about that more so than you'll think about the times that you have passed. Our brains are kind of wired to think on the negative side of things. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about why that is later. But so all the negative experiences will kind of come to like get fixated on that or ruminate on it or just obsess over those types of thoughts. And of course, the more we think about poor test history or failing, the more likely we are to actually have that very outcome that we don't want. Another thing is comparison. I'm sorry.
I was saying that is good, because another thing that we heard this weekend was, we behave to fulfill the thoughts that we have about ourselves. And so if you think that you're going to fail, you behave in that way to fulfill that thought.
Right. And I think another person said, if you think that you will or you think that you won't, you're right. So either way, you're going to be right. You're going to fulfill that prophecy that you've been, thinking about and obsessing over, right? Yeah. Another thing is comparison comparing yourself to others, right? So we get caught up in, well, Jennifer over there, she passed, or Kim passed, or Michael passed, right? So why can't I pass? Or even thinking that, well, I know that I'm smarter than Bobby, or I know that I'm smarter than Keisha. So how is it that they passed and I didn't, right? So comparison is a thief of joy, right? So to compare on any level just gets us stuck and makes us feel worse about our condition. And then we start spiraling downward.
Wow. I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, as adults, we all do it too, right? So we know that teens do it, adults do it. Yeah, absolutely.
As an adult,
and then also,
I found myself as an adult putting off my my national boards, because I'm like, am I gonna be one of the ones who have to take it over and over and over again? And how am I gonna pass it as quickly as so and so passed it? That comparison, it's huge.
Right. And we don't even realize that is comparison, right? So, and like you said, just taking boards, a lot of times there's a sense of shame, and there's a sense of embarrassment, and there's a sense of inadequacy. And so what do? We just don't do anything. We get stuck, or we procrastinate, or we put it off. And so teens do the same thing, right? Oftentimes they procrastinate in studying for a test because they don't want to face the reality that I could fail, or I may not do so well, especially if they're taking their ACTs or SATs or some kind of standardized test that's going to help them get into a college or university. They may get so worried about that they get stuck and literally just don't study at all. And so feeling stuck, not moving forward, or not moving at all is a problem. And then procrastinating, waiting to the very last minute to start doing something. And when you procrastinate, it leads you to cram, right? So now you're up all night trying to cram for it. And that's counterintuitive to the way your brain functions. The brain doesn't like you to cram. And so you're thinking that you're up till 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And oftentimes people brag about it. Oh, I was studying till 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, that is counterproductive, because you're cutting into your sleep time, where your brain needs to sleep so that it can rejuvenate, and sleep increases your focus and your concentration. So if you're up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, then you're cutting into your sleep hygiene, which impacts your test taking. And it just makes you more anxious. Yeah.
That's so you're doing something to pass the test in essence, but what you're doing is counterproductive.
Absolutely.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. The one of the things that I think about when I think about test anxiety and procrastinating, I think about the fear of judgment, or the fear of evaluation, somebody evaluating, and how that can be paralyzing.
Absolutely. So when you say judgment and evaluation, are you talking about the test itself, evaluating your ability or your competencies, or the instructor? Who do you feel is judging you the most?
Well, I think about the instructor. I think about the instructor, evaluating me, and me not feeling up to par, or worried that if I fail, they might not think as well, or as highly of me, and things like that. And so that could create that sinking thinking also.
Yes. And it's a downward spiral of thinking, right? And so you can absolutely get caught up in that. Fear of judgment is a real thing, and oftentimes I always suggest to my clients and other people that I work with, is that when you fear being judged by others, the people that have that fear the most tend to judge themselves and be very harsh on themselves. And they tend to judge themselves pretty severely. And so I always say, exercise self-compassion, because
Right.
when you exercise self-compassion upon yourself, then you can, express compassion for others. And then you're less likely to think that people are judging you as harshly as you previously thought, right?
Right.
Oftentimes people are not judging us nearly as much as we think they are. And so we have to like sprinkle some self-compassion on ourselves to get us out of that, self-deprecating loop that keeps
Right.
us kind of stuck
Right.
and we don't move forward. Mm-hmm.
That is so true. Let me take a break just to say hello and welcome to all our guests. If you are out there, just say hello so that we know that you're with us. Tonight, I have my friend, Miss Gena Golden, who is a licensed clinical social worker, and she's here with me talking about test anxiety. And we just went over a list of 10 things that possibly could cause test anxieties. And stay tuned with us because we're going to talk about some of the ways that you can combat these anxieties and help your teenager get through this. And like we said, it's not just for teenagers, it's for you and me too. So if you're here with us, if you're joining us on the replay, hashtag replay, share it out because this is the time when a lot of our students need some help, and Miss Gena is here to help tonight. Well, thank you again, Gena, for being here with us.
You're welcome.
So we covered a lot of, let me just recap some of the things that we covered.
Mm-hmm.
Causes of test anxiety, we say fear of failure, perfectionism, we said adult pressure or even self pressure, reminders of past failures with poor test history, lack of preparation, wow, procrastination, comparing ourselves with others in the fear of judgment or evaluation by others, and also feeling stuck. That is a really good list of things that could cause people to not to develop test anxieties.
Right. So
Mhm.
let me also reiterate, well, not reiterate, but to say for the first time that test anxiety falls in the category of something called state anxiety. So some people know that there's something called state anxiety and trait anxiety. And trait anxiety is someone who typically has anxiety that's more pervasive across other areas of their life, right? So they're not just anxious during test time, they're typically anxious type of people, maybe someone with generalized anxiety disorder, as an example. However, state anxiety is just situational. And so with someone with test anxiety typically falls under a situational experience where they are anxious prior to, during, and even after the test. And once that experience is over with, they typically don't have anxiety. They may have some low level of anxiety, because I think all people do at some point in their lives, but it's not really a pervasive kind of trait that they typically have. And
Uh,
so it's important to know that, because someone may not feel comfortable embracing this idea that they have test anxiety, because they might think that that means they just have anxiety as a general rule, and it doesn't necessarily mean that. Now, it could mean that people who have generalized anxiety disorder or some other types of anxieties may also have test anxiety, but test anxiety does not automatically mean that you have anxiety as a whole. Okay. And so, and keep in mind that it is a physiological experience with tests. It's a mental, emotional, cognitive, over arousal when it comes to your test. It's your amygdala in your brain sending a signal of fear to the rest of your body. It is seeing your test as the big brown bear chasing you. It's seeing your test as the cobra or the snake coming after you, or the saber-toothed tiger. So your test then becomes that scary thing that is dangerous to you, that it can attack you. And so you kind of project that fear onto the test, and your amygdala starts doing what it's supposed to do, and it starts sending out these signals that you are in danger. And so your body and the chemicals in your neural chemicals start reacting to this fear, sending all kinds of adrenaline and neural chemicals throughout your body, stimulating your heartbeat and your respiration and your digestion, or slowing things down so that you can fight in this dangerous situation. And all of this is just a description of your fight or flight response, right? So your stress response has been stimulated by this perceived danger called your test. And so it's a real experience for people, right? It's not just, oh, girl, you're worried, you'll be fine, you'll get over it, you got this, girl. It's more than that for some people.
Yes. Well, let's talk about that. You know what? Sometimes, like I remember when I was about to sit my national boards, and I was studying, and I was really, really anxious about it. But people kept telling me, you got this, girl, you got this, girl. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I don't have it. No, I don't. I'm really in need of some real strategies to get through this, right? And I think oftentimes we brush it off, or, you know, for me with my kids, I would pray for them and ask God to help them and calm them. But that was the extent of the strategies that I knew.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And prayer is actually good as well, right? Yeah. However, sometimes we need a multitude of tools. And, you know, I always encourage people to do something for your mind, do something for your body, and do something for your soul. Wow. So that you can pass this test with confidence and ease, because everyone does not have the I got it girl thing. Some people are perfectly fine with the pat on the back and the encouragement, while others, that makes us even more worried and stressed, because that's saying, hey, you got this. And then you go in there, and if you don't got it and you fail, now how do you reunite back into that community of people who thought you had it in the first place? Right. So it's important that, it's very important that people who feel like, okay, no, I don't have it, that you either speak up and speak out, or you talk to a professional, or align yourself with someone or a group that can support you in a different kind of way, right? Because it's more than just that. It's more than just that.
So that's a perfect segue into, let me just acknowledge that we have some folks watching. Welcome, Marquita. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you have any questions for Gena, drop it in the comments, so that she can answer it, because she is the bomb when it comes to test anxiety. And I'm so privileged to have her with us tonight. So, okay, so now, you know, when the you got it girl don't work, and we need some other things, right? What are some of the things that we can do to calm this amygdala and, you know, and push through this test?
Yeah. So in our bodies, there is something called the autonomic nervous system, right? Mm-hmm. And so the autonomic nervous system has two sides: the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is where your fight or flight response is, and this starts at the base of your spine and goes down throughout your whole body. And the sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight. And again, like I said before, when you are in a fight or flight situation, right, you're fighting for your life, or that's where our early brain was designed to do, protect us from danger. Because as humans, we know early humans were pretty defenseless, right? They didn't have the claws and the fur and the fangs, right, to protect themselves. So early man had to be very anxious and stressed out over everything so that they can survive. They had to believe that when that rustling went through the bushes over there, that could be an animal that will kill you. So they had to be on high alert all of the time. Every time they left their dwelling, their life was in danger. So naturally, the brain was developed to protect the human, because the human is pretty fragile compared to all other animals.
Right.
So because of that, they had to stay in high alert, which means when you're in high alert, when you're stressed over a situation, you just don't need certain bodily functions to survive. You don't really need to digest your food that well because you're just trying to survive. So all of your energy is going, to your heart and your brain, so you can figure out how to get out of this situation and survive. Your body's not trying to reproduce any children, right? So your reproduction goes down, your digestive system slows down, and that is your stress response. Now imagine if you live in that stress response all the time.
Oh my goodness.
That means your systems are affected in a real way, right? So you want to not be in your stress response. You don't want to be in your sympathetic nervous system all the time. And we know that most Americans are there all the time, which is why the term was coined, I think, in the 70s or 80s, that stress kills. Because when you are in your sympathetic nervous system, all your systems, your circulatory system, your respiratory system, your digestive system, your reproductive system, they're all operating minimally, right? And so that's why they say stress kills, because it is affecting your whole body and its system. So how do you get out of that? How do you shift out of that? So the way you shift out of that is to to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest system. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what does that mean? So your parasympathetic nervous system, you can tap into the very simplistic things that can help you level stress response is always spiking here. And so we do very little to calm ourselves down. So we need to bring this up and start doing more things, being various things that we can do to get our system, our nervous system, into the rest and digest system, where now all the functions in your body are working optimally, right? Your reproduction is better, your digestion is better, your respiration is better, your circulatory is better. It's working optimally to benefit you. And so remember, this is all related to test anxiety. Why? Because test anxiety promotes the stress response. We want to get into the parasympathetic. And so you have to be very conscious in your life about adding those relaxation techniques into your life to level off and balance the scales a bit. Okay, I hope I explained that.
I mean, that was such a thorough explanation. I mean, I could take that into a different area, because when you describe that and you say most Americans, and I'm like, yes, and especially if you are a student of color who comes from poverty and have consistent trauma, that's your life every day, every minute of the day. And then it's compounded by test anxiety, right?
Absolutely.
That was such an amazing explanation. Thank you.
And just imagine just what teens have to face today, not just teens, but adults, older adults, right? People of color, Black people, Hispanics, right? Just the stress of being able to maneuver at school with with people coming inside of schools with guns, right? Being stopped by the police constantly, seeing people being murdered and killed and harmed and all of that. So just being a certain person, a certain gender, a certain sexuality, a certain color in this society will keep you in the box of your sympathetic nervous system. And that has to break your systems down. By the time you're 30, 40, 50 years old, that's why we have so many people with diabetes and hypertension and kidney failure and all of the heart disease. All of these things come from this less than optimal functioning of the body over and over and over and over again. Absolutely. Wow. So test anxiety is just a very small microcosm of a larger problem.
My goodness. I love talking to you about this, and you just light up. This is your zone, and you just light up about it. And it's just so exciting for me. Marquita says, I work, let me go over here and read her comment. She said, I work with college students. Are there specific recommendations for this population? Okay, so we're moving into now, what are some of the things that we can do? And so she's asking about college students in her population.
Gotcha. So the very thing applies to teens, college students, adults. So some of the techniques may be modified a bit because as we get older and more developed, right? So they have more judgment and maybe more insight than maybe a younger child. So they can implement a lot more techniques. So some of the things I wrote down, some of the let me just say that I'm writing a book, and in the book, I'm talking about the mind, body, and spirit. And I offer various tools to help you get into your parasympathetic nervous system to level you out so you can get back to your natural homeostasis, right? That some of us, homeostasis is just foreign to most of us because we've been operating so lopsided and so unbalanced that being balanced feels strange, right?
You know, so I'm gonna just pop in here and say that is so true, because when I work with my middle school students and I teach them calming and self-regulating techniques, they actually get scared. They're like, oh my gosh, this feels weird. And I'm trying to convey to them that yes, it feels weird, but this is really how the body should feel. And it's such a scary experience for them to experience calm and regulation.
Oh yeah. I see that a lot in my practice. If I ask anyone, an adult, to just relax and take some deep breaths, close your eyes. And I understand that some people have trauma, and so closing their eyes and even relaxing is a challenge, right? So some people are hypervigilant all the time because of past trauma. So I definitely take that into consideration. But again, for people with test anxiety who have more of a state anxiety that's very specific to testing, sometimes their issues are deep-seated, but other times it's just for tests. So I would suggest for an older person to do maybe some journaling, right? The college student, right? They're used to reading and writing anyway, so throw in some journaling. Research has shown that when you journal right before a test, you do better. If you journal about your test anxiety, about the thing that you fear the most, about the judgment, about the criticism, about the failure, about the fear, about the worry, when you journal, even if you have to just take one sheet of paper with you to your testing site and just start writing, that significantly reduces your anxiety and increases your test score by a couple of points.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is a very, very powerful, that's a very powerful thing that a college student and even a teen can do.
Okay, I'm getting ready to share that with my client this week.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, we know positive self-talk and daily affirmations work. So if you go to my mirror in my bathroom right now, I have all these things stuck on my mirror. My husband can barely find his face, between all my little sticky notes. But just having daily affirmations about your test, about what you want to occur, and then step into this like intuitive knowingness that not only do I want it, not only do I desire it, but that I am it now.
Yes.
That I am the experience after the experience. Like, so if I want to pass this test, I am the test taker that has passed. So step into like a present day knowingness and acceptance of what you desire for yourself in the future.
I love it. I love it. And that's the same concept we use on like when we're writing affirmations for our vision boards or things like that. Saying it in the present as if it has manifested.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's powerful, right?
It is powerful.
Yeah. And I would tell those college students to pay attention to your sleep patterns, sleep hygiene, right? Because I said earlier that your brain needs to sleep between 7 and 9 hours. There's a ton of research out there about how important sleep is. And college students oftentimes, get the least amount of sleep, because they're either up all night studying and cramming, or they might be partying, or they might be talking to someone. They might even be at the library. And so I think they devalue or don't understand the importance of getting a good night's sleep. So I said earlier, if you're cramming in the middle of the night, you're cutting into your sleep hygiene process, and then you're robbing your brain of the ability to focus and have clear concentration during your test. So it's counterproductive, it's counterintuitive to do that.
That's good stuff.
And of course, water intake. So your brain needs water. When you think about it, your body is like 70% water, right? And so you have to feed your body so that you can feed your brain. So when you're not drinking your water, you're doing a disservice to your brain power. So you want to drink at least 8 glasses of 8 ounces of water a day, or whatever your doctor tells you is appropriate for your body size and type. But you want to get that water in there to hydrate yourself and to further stimulate your brain.
That's good. I never thought about that. I know that water is important for the body and the function of the body, but I never thought about that as it relates to the functioning of the brain.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I always encourage people with test anxiety to eliminate the negative talk about your professor, your teacher, your study program, your class, your institution, right? Because I kind of believe that energetically, you're going to have a harder time passing if you are denigrating the person that taught you the material. So as a student, as a teen, you may say, well, I don't like Miss Jones. I don't like the way she teaches me. I hear that a lot. But she doesn't teach good, or she's boring, or she's mean, right? Even my own kids used to come home and tell me how mean their teacher was. And I said, your teacher's personality has nothing to do with how well you should do in her class. So I taught them to separate their judgment of her with, your ability to get an A in that class, because we can get caught up in blaming the teacher, blaming the professor, blaming the instructor, and we take the focus off of ourselves. So it's just a mechanism, it's a coping mechanism to kind of be able to project and redirect your fear, your worry onto someone else.
Wow.
So take the time to find something that you can connect with the person that's giving you the information. You may not like their style, you may not like the way they do things, but find a way to connect with them, because once you can connect with that person, when you're sitting down for that test, you can conjure up memories of them, right? I'm giving away all my good nuggets, but you can conjure up memories of that particular teacher, and you can begin to see and recall the day that they taught you that specific thing, right?
Wow.
But if you have negative thoughts about them, you're not going to typically conjure up any good thoughts and feelings about them.
Wow.
So I say do away with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good stuff, because negative begat negative. Positive begat positive. It's just like a snowball effect.
absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. This is really good stuff. So when is your book coming out?
It was supposed to come out in March, but it
Oh,
didn't come out. But I'm still working on it. It's almost out. But I go into great detail about various things you can do to strengthen your mind, strengthen your brain, strengthen your body, strengthen your spirit. And again, this book is for people who have tried other things.
uh-huh.
And this is not so much as test taking strategies
Right.
as it is decreasing the stress and the worry and the self-doubt so that you can take it with confidence and
Right.
ease and relaxation. Yeah.
Okay. So are you doing pre-orders?
Yes, I am doing pre-orders. I would have to get my link sent to you. I
Okay.
don't have it readily available. I was looking for it just now. I don't have it readily available, but yeah, I'm absolutely going to do pre-orders. And of course, I have a new course coming up, if you don't mind me
Don't
sharing.
tell us about it.
So it's on tapping. It is called Tapping for Test Anxiety, and tapping is also called emotional freedom technique. And it's really you taking your hands and tapping on various meridians in your body to help you to relax, help you to stay focused, put you in your parasympathetic nervous system, kind of rewire your thinking about your test challenges, and just get just get you physically and emotionally ready for your next exam. So that is a online program that can be purchased, and I'll be rolling out a few more programs like that that are holistic in my approach, so that people can, and they're very affordable, because I want people to be able to take and pass their tests. So I'm making them all affordable, very easy and practical, holistic tools to help you pass your test.
Wow, that is so amazing. Would you drop the links in our comments when you're done, as a resource for people so that they can access you? Maybe the link to your website as well, and how people can reach you so that they can get access to this information.
Absolutely. Yep.
This is good stuff. As soon as we're done, I'm gonna send this link to my son, who is a college sophomore.
Ah.
And I know that this information, he can benefit from this information as well. I'm just really excited because I'm benefiting from it. And I struggle with taking tests. And so this is
Mm-hmm.
really, really good. So I'm just gonna recap what we talked about. We talked about test anxiety. We talked about some of the possible causes of test anxiety. And one of the things that stood out to me is the state and the trait anxiety forms of anxiety. That was really I didn't necessarily know about those two. And so that stood out to me. And we talked about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic parts of the brain. And also, we talked about tips for achieving or reducing your stress so that you can better test. And one is journaling, and the another one, number two, is positive affirmations, and three is sleep, four is water, and five is eliminate negative thinking about the test, the teacher, the institution, and try to conjure up more positive experiences. And did I get them all right?
You got them all right. And I have tons more, but
I
those are the
bet
ones
you
we're talking about tonight. But yeah, you got them.
take the class and buy the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness. This has been so informative. And yes, I want one of the pre-sales, and then I'm going to find you to autograph my book for me, because this is good stuff. This is good stuff. So if you are in the audience, or if you're catching us on the replay and you have any questions for us, drop it in the comments, and Gena will circle back around and answer your question. She'll also drop the link in the comments for her site and where you can find more information. This has been so great. Gena, what's some closing words you can leave with our audience tonight?
Yeah, I just want to say that get to know yourself. Get to know what you're really worried and concerned about, and kind of make it clear to yourself. Is it embarrassment? Is it shame? Is it fear? Is it worry? Because if you can't name it or claim it, then you can't really fix it and heal it. So when I say state it, I don't mean I want you to live in that space, but just identify for yourself, what is the thing that you fear the most, or that you worried about, right? Talk about it with a trusted friend, a family member, or a therapist, and just really get it out of your body and start to express it. Because if you keep it all inside, if you keep it in your mind, it's just going to worry your mind. If you keep it in your body, it's just going to worry your body and get it all out of whack. So be honest with yourself and state it clearly, and then take steps to heal that part. If it's shame and embarrassment, if it whatever it is, if you're afraid that you won't be able to move forward in your career, if you're concerned that everyone else is passing this exam but you, if you're concerned that you may not graduate from high school or graduate from college, say what it is that's bothering you, and then journal about it. Talk to someone, work through it, do some body work, go to a massage therapist, do some Reiki work, do stuff that have to do with your chakras, unstick your chakras, or go to an acupuncturist, or take my tapping course. Utilize things like crystals and essential oils, right, to help you. I'm not going to give you a name brand, but essential oils, right? Crystals. Get a worry stone, something that you can hold on to. Do what you need to do holistically to make you feel good and confident about your test. Don't hide anymore. Step into the stuff that is making you fearful. Get it out of your body, and then go slay that test. Go slay it. And I don't want to say you got it, girl. I'm going to say do the work and you will have it. You will have it after that.
Right.
Absolutely.
I love that. I keep these, I give my clients these little bracelets also.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And what I teach them to do is how to use it as a grounding tool. Breathe their way through whatever the situation by rubbing each bead, or
yes,
pray by rub each bead and say a prayer, or even to count
Mm-hmm.
And that they
Mm-hmm.
find that that relax their minds a little bit enough to send enough oxygen to their brain so that they can make some positive choices. So yes, this is what
I love that.
yeah, I use this. I bring these back from Africa every year, and I
Mm.
use this. I give that to each of my clients.
I love that, Anne.
Well,
Mm.
they it's a cute little bracelet.
Yeah. It's
And no,
stylish and effective.
right, right. And nobody knows why you're wearing it, but you know how to use it
Mhm.
to bring you into functioning.
That's right.
Yes, yes. And so Natalie says, I want to learn tapping. So I'm gonna tell her to sign up for your class because I need to sign up for your class as well because I'm very interested in tapping.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, sure. I would
Yes.
love to have you.
Well, Gena, I am so glad that you have agreed to join us tonight, that you were here to share so much rich information with us. And I'm going to try to find places to share this because it's really good stuff to help people combat that fear, right? Of taking the test. And this has really been great. And I so appreciate you for doing this.
Thank you for having me, Anne. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, yes. And get that book, drop your links, and I'm gonna pre-order. And I just want to say thank you. So to everyone somebody say, how can I purchase your grounding beads for my students? Well,
See, got a customer.
Miss Natalie, you can purchase the grounding beads on my website at www.andillard.com and I will put the link on here. And for anybody else who's watching, interested in learning more about what I do as a licensed mental health therapist, please feel free to visit my website at www.andillard.com. Schedule a free 15-minute consultation, and I'll be happy to see how we can work together. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. And if you're catching us on the replay, please hit hashtag replay and share this video out. This has been Ann Dillard with my guest, Gena Golden, licensed clinical social worker. And it's been a pleasure being here with you tonight. Thank you and have a good night.
Good night.